All right. Well, welcome, Sarah. This is Sarah Bingham to our TXMI 3210 Fashion Fundamentals. I'm saying it's like a guest lecture series now because I've done so many of them, so I love it. Um, so what's really great about you, Sarah, is that you are a TMI alum. You got your undergrad and your master's at UGA. So you have like a really fun, kind of cool career path or story with where you're at. So let's first start with like your name, your title, and the company that you're currently working for.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. I was in your shoes a few short years ago, but my name is Sarah, and I work at Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's headquarters in Springfield, Missouri. And I hold the position of assistant merchant for ladies' national brand clothing.
Ooh, and so how long have you been working for Bass now?
It's been just shy of a year. I started last September, so coming up for my anniversary here.
Your 1 year anniversary. Okay, so in the industry, I know that you've just kind of a year done this kind of full-time position, but if you wouldn't mind talking about maybe some of the internships that you worked up towards, or just even other jobs that you held, um, to kind of get to where you are right now, if you wouldn't mind just talking about that real quick.
So I had, I would say, like a unique kind of path than a lot of my peers did because I, of course, was in the fashion merchandising program for undergrad, and I actually wound up staying and doing my master's too. And I never had a fashion internship at all. And when I was in my master's program, I was a TA for a couple of different professors, and Dr. Claire was one of them who ran the internship like class and everything. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, here's all these like awesome students. Like I see all these wonderful internships they're getting and stuff. And I'm like, here I am on like year 6 of college and like have never worked in the fashion industry at all. So I was really nervous for graduation time because I was just afraid that somebody would look at my one-page resume not knowing anything about like my personality. Just you got an 8 by 11.5 sheet of paper to capture somebody on there and just be like out.
Yeah.
But I did work throughout college at a leasing agency in Athens, and that really kind of helped shape like a really kind of business and customer relations professionalism skill, I would say.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
tried to highlight that a lot whenever I like submitted interviews or answered questions and stuff. Um, and try to like really just play up what I do know and say like, hey, this isn't the correct industry, but it's actually maybe better because I've learned something from somewhere else that somebody else hasn't dealt with before. So that makes me stand out as a candidate. Um,
No, I know when we always would have discussions about your interviews, because you even got a job at Gap in San Francisco and you
yeah.
turned that down, which I was shocked, but I know, but this you did the path that was right for you. But I mean, you were a very desired candidate because you understood that there were certain skills that were very transferable through industries. And I think some people feel very much like how you did, of like, oh, I don't have, I haven't done a merchandising position, or I haven't done a design position, so there's just no way I could ever get this job or that job. And you're really a great example of, you're right, taking the skills and talking about the skills that you did pick up and
you can
how they would fit so well.
you can market yourself very well. So don't freak out if
I
you don't
love
know.
that. No, that's such a good lesson to
Yeah,
learn.
if you have the summer internship in New York City, that's amazing. But
Yep.
if you don't freak out also. So
So kind of leading into that, what are some skills, both professionally or technically, that you use now in your job?
so I would say that probably at least 50% of my job is all communication. Um, I get to work every day, and my email inbox is like 20 to 50 emails, depending on the time of year. really dealing with both vendors, so the companies that I buy from, like the North Face or Under Armour or Columbia, and dealing with all the teams within Bass Pro Shops. So the merchant position that I hold is extremely cross-functional, like oriented. So we do our own stuff. We do all the buying and planning and allocating for all of our stores and everything. But then I almost it's a lot actually. Me and my merchant boss, we do feel like we are like micromanagers of every other aspect of our
Oh,
business.
yes.
Marketing comes to us and is like, hey, we're putting like a newspaper advertisement out. Give us the product that you want featured, but you have to make sure that it's featured in these regional markets. And if it's not, you have to like fix that, version it out and stuff. Finance deals a lot with my boss, her open to buy budgeting. So she helps plan a budget for all of our brands every single season. Has to stick to that, obviously.
And just so that students understand that that's really how much merchandise you can buy and bring into the store, right? Like how many units, how many SKUs, all that kind of stuff, right?
Markdown money.
Oh, yeah.
Everything. Yeah. So, and it's very much so like based on how your sales performance was the previous like comparable season. So from fall 20, from fall 19, how good did they do? Are you allowed to buy more or not? And so it's really tricky because you have to like kind of find this fine line between there's a set dollar amount that you have to be at to be able to fill the stores with like an assortment. You don't want to have the store sitting there empty. But finance doesn't understand that sometimes because they're like, these sales were terrible last year for this brand. Why would you want to buy that much? And we're like, we don't. We just have a lot of stores to fill with the bare minimum amount. So it's a lot of like the other teams that we work with may not understand like the practicality or reasoning behind what we do. So you just have to be able to communicate with everybody and explain your case, I think. So it's a lot of.
Now, when you're managing all of that money and buys, what program do you mainly use? Is it pretty much all Excel, or is there like an internal program?
A little bit of everything.
Okay.
Excel is huge. If you know how to make pivot tables or do VLOOKUPs on Excel, if you know how to sort data and do formulas, you're going to be in a really good position.
Oh, that's good.
The first like couple weeks that I was at this job, I wasn't as familiar with all the like fancy smancy parts of Excel. And I feel like I'm just an expert now, like, because you just use it every single day for like almost everything that you do. And we also use a lot of internal like sales reporting software. Some of them are called Domo or Cognos from IBM.
Yeah.
And then we also use this old 80s System 2 software that like you pull up on your screen and it's like black with like the neon.
Oh, yes. I remember that.
It looks like you're going to start like coding something because you just keep all these numbers in the keypad. Like, I mean, I was literally like, how do they expect me to learn this? Like, this looks so retro. And
it's very like Stranger Things kind of thing. Whenever I see that operating system, I'm like, ooh, it's like Stranger Things.
Yeah, and I was like, I've never taken any computer science classes. Like, what is this? And then when you like your first couple like weeks or months on the job of training, everybody there knows what they're doing. So they're just like, oh, I need to look something up. And you're like, what did you do? Like, I need to like notes on that again. It's really overwhelming. But I think anybody like in this generation who has grown up with technology will be able to learn it. So
then what was something kind of unexpected that happened to you? Let's say at Bass Pro, like when you finally got into this full-time position, what was something kind of unexpected that you're like, whoa, didn't know I would have to deal with this, or whatever the case is?
Yeah, so this probably differs from company to company, but with Bass Pro specifically, I was just really surprised at the amount of responsibility that they give the assistant merchants. I got there and they were very transparent with like, there's not any like kind of formal training for this job position. It is very much like learn on the go. You kind of
And
have to
that's,
have,
I would say that's very the fashion industry. And that's very characteristics of cross-functional teams. You get a lot of responsibility
yeah.
to begin
I
with.
was, I was like, I'm just gonna pick out some clothes and that'll be that, you know. But so it's a lot more of like, whoa, I didn't think that like I would have to be a part of this or this project, this task, and then just having like an entrepreneurial spiritship almost of like you get into work, your boss, my boss specifically, isn't like, good morning, here's your to-do list. It's more like you should be busy all day and you should know what to do. Here's $2 million, go buy some stuff. So just I was really surprised. I was like, oh, we're doing this, okay. And for students watching this, this is my first job out of college, so
Yeah.
this was my first taste of the fashion industry itself and also like the big girl job and everything. So I guess like maybe if you've had another position before, you'd be like more prepared for that coming from a different company. But fresh out of college, I was like, oh, okay. So this is what it's like to be a merchant, because I feel like textbooks are always like merchants buy clothes or
Yeah, no, but it is. It's, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of the textbooks are written by people that never worked in the
never
fashion.
worked. Yeah,
They
that's
just taught.
that's why I was like, I definitely started to go down the path of like, I really enjoy when I was a teaching assistant for the
Yeah.
master's program. I was like, I really enjoy this. I think I might want to try to get a PhD one day and maybe be a professor. But I was like, I have a feeling that I should probably get out there and get some industry experience because I know that you had it. And I was like, I feel like that just rounds out the whole like
It does.
what the textbook says, but this is how things actually went day to day. And even that, it's just something that you just have to experience on your own
Yeah.
because you get thrown in there. And like I said, it's just like, whoa, okay. So not only am I buying clothes, but I am calculating formulas to figure out my size ratios that I need to buy
Oh,
in order
yeah.
to have a floor set presentation. Because you don't just say, hey, Under Armour, I like those shorts and that color, give me 1,000 units. You have to give them by SKU, so by color, by size. And you can't just be like, I feel like ordering 200 smalls, 300 mediums. You have to go back and look at sales history and determine like your like size ratio based on your sales, but then you have to take into account, well, is that my sizing ratio because that's actually what I bought? If I had bought more, 1x, 2x, 3x, would I have sold more?
Oh,
um,
yeah.
Something else that surprised me so much about just like managing this business was the aspects of staying in stock at retail stores.
Oh.
So it's this like blew my mind actually because you're like, okay, I have all this product and I sold it all. That's amazing. And then your boss is like, why are you out of stock at your stores? And it's like, oh, I thought that this was a good thing. So no, you have to find that sweet spot of buying enough product so that you can sell it out within a season, within a fall or a spring season. But also, you don't want to set your stores with all this product in August and be sold out by September. You
Yeah.
need to plan for it to last the whole season. You don't want to be too sold out because you don't want your floor to be empty and then you don't have the opportunity to buy anything else because the vendors have already sold everything else. So the company specific in stock percentage at Bass Pro Shops is 95% in stock at all times, is their
Wow.
company standards. So it's so hard because I had a short style from Under Armour this season that we essentially bought to cover like a sell through of like 4 times. So like you set it on the floor, sells through once, set it
Yeah.
again, to do that 4 times at 152 stores. Just imagine how many units that is, like
Yeah.
thousands upon thousands upon thousands. It was 91% sold through by like April. I needed it to last until like late June.
Oh gosh.
So, and it's it's hard too because you can do all this kind of trend forecasting and comp forecasting based on like similar styles from last season. But I would say the most unique thing about soft lines and apparel versus like hard lines is that we don't have the same things every season. Fashion is
No. It's
evolving
not
and
just like restocking a basketball or a
no.
coffee cup or
Yeah. So it's always every vendor, every brand that we sell, we always have like a season where one piece was so strong, like it did amazing sales for us. And then the next season, they don't offer it because their
yeah.
designers are working 2 years in advance.
Yeah.
So they don't know the stuff that they like have actually selling this season. They were done with 2 seasons ago. So
That
they
would have
don't
been
know.
like me because like you're talking stuff I have no idea what it means.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it no, you're right. No, but that's so right. That's so
It's
right.
it's all just so dynamic, I would
Yeah.
say. It's a dynamic process, and you realize these things, and then it's very interesting when you are working for such a big like company as Bass Pro Shops because we do have special relations with some of these vendors. So for normal like seasonal buying, we usually work a year in advance. So
Mm-hmm.
it's fall 2020 right now. I am about to start buying for fall 2021. So it's kind of hard because I don't know what's going to sell well this season because it hasn't really happened yet. We're still
No.
in August, but I
But the
also
world was so different in fall 2019, so it's even harder to try to predict. I mean, we can't even predict tomorrow.
and with all the COVID stuff that just went on, so I'll kind of get into this story
Yeah.
um, for Bass Pro Shops. April was just a didn't even exist kind of month. Like it was like at the point where they did layoffs within the company,
Oh,
not so much like in merchandising and stuff, but Bass Pro Shops does a lot of like hospitality and restaurant.
oh yeah.
They did a ton of layoffs in there, and they actually did some furloughs at the headquarters for teams that they didn't consider were like most important, like the visual merchandisers, since the
Mm,
stores were open and
yeah.
stuff. Um, but like April was the month where like I was calling my parents and I was like, I mean, I'm kind of like waiting for them to be like, you gotta go,
Oh,
like
God.
that's how bad sales were,
Yeah.
especially clothing. Clothing isn't selling when people are in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
Um, the unique thing about Bass Pro Shops specifically is that we're not just an apparel store. So obviously, apparel is probably one of the smaller like segments within the store. We sell camping gear that did really, really well during the pandemic, like
Yeah.
survival. We had survival boxes that I'm sure nobody ever thought would like sell, and they sold out like immediately.
Yeah.
Our shooting and guns and ammunition, the merchants in charge of all that department literally like were out of stock in
That's
April.
scary. Don't tell me that.
Yeah. So it was just like you had these like segments of the company that were keeping us like doing just fine, actually like
Yeah.
exceedingly fine.
Yeah.
And then you had women's clothing, like nobody's gonna go buy a $200 North Face parka.
No.
Um, so amazingly,
Yeah.
things turned around. We're still obviously not over the pandemic, but for business, things turned around. In April, though, we were like, wow, the world is on fire and burning. We've got to cancel a lot of stuff for fall because
Yeah.
people are not going to want to go out and spend money because I'm sure that they're already under so much hardship right now with everything being closed. Maybe you're laid off, maybe you're just not having any more discretionary income.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like, let's cut things like by 20, 30, 40%. And then May hits and things
People
are
went
flying.
bazonkers. They're like, we got to have more.
Crazy stuff. So here we are. We've canceled off a pretty significant amount of our originally planned fall inventory because of a spring global pandemic. Because we canceled off a lot of stuff within this like wholesale business. So like we told Under Armour, hey, we're not buying this. Columbia, hey, we're not buying this. And everybody was very understanding. They understood why we didn't want it anymore.
Yeah.
Feelings weren't hurt very much. But now they go to their suppliers and they're like, all right, don't make as much. Like,
Yeah.
don't need to have stuff sitting in our warehouses.
Yeah.
Well, now it's like a fight to get anything extra from them. So all the stuff that we canceled off, they canceled off too. But
Yeah.
we have like some kind of like backup supplies and stuff of certain items. So once business like picks up and our sales are like the best I've ever seen them since I've been with this company. So
Wow.
like May and June was literally the best for my area of business since I started working there like almost a
Wow.
year ago, right after all this stuff happens. Um, Now I have like my reps for these brands. They'll send me what's called like an available for sale report each week. So it's stuff that is just up for grabs from any account.
Yeah.
So for us, our competitors who are probably on the same kind of like account would be like Dick's Sporting Goods, Academy, um, uh, just like the kind of
Yeah.
REI stuff. Well, now I'm like, hey, that short from Under Armour sold out amazingly well. Do you guys have any more that I can buy back into for fall? They send you a report and you're like, I'll take them all, but you have to get new item setup information from them. So you have to collect information about the products such as like UPCs, global
Mm.
trading codes, um, cost, retail, inner pack quantities, case quantities, and get it all set up in your system. So I have to like get everything set up and send it off to one of my teams so they can create a Bass Pro Shop SKU for this item so that we can put it on a purchase order and order it. By the time that gets done in like 3 or 4 days, because everybody's so busy doing everything
Oh,
else,
for sure.
I go back to Under Armour. I'm like, cool, gonna send this purchase order to you now. And they're like, oh, somebody else already took it.
Oh God. Dick's got it or Academy
Yeah.
got it. Oh God.
Yeah.
Those
So
people are
now
just, that's what's so crazy about, you know, it's one thing as a designer to conceptually try to like predict trends and create trends. But I think trying to understand people's essentially consumer behavior and people's like buying just behavior with different economies or different social structures or different political structures is just, see, this is why I stay away from consumer behavior, because
yeah.
it's really difficult because you just never know sometimes what people are going to do.
I mean, we asked like everybody internally in our company, kind of in that realm of like clothing, the men's teams, the hunting teams. We asked all of our vendors, like, did you guys see this coming? No, everybody in the kind of portion of industry that I work, that like outdoor clothing, sporty world, was like, didn't see that coming. Like, we're screwed for fall. Like, we're gonna try to do what we can, but it is crazy. I mean, I remember like being in trend forecasting class and just thinking like, okay, like I see where we're going with this. Like, we're looking at Pantone and we're looking at the zeitgeist of the year or whatever. But I was like, how can you really be accurate? And I don't know if it's different for designers, but being in this merchant position for about a year and talking to like my boss as well about this, for us, it is so just a guess. Like, I mean,
It's a gut feel. It really can be just kind of like it is like you can try to look at sales reports, you can try to understand consumer behavior and trends, but a lot of time, at least from my understanding of like the really good merchants that I saw working, it was such a gut thing.
Yeah.
Like it
I
was
mean,
just like a gut
when I
thing.
when I say like a gut or like a guess, of course that's like not just, oh, I like this shirt, so
Yeah.
I do this. It is more like, okay, we had a shirt last year that was maybe similar and sold really well, or like we think that this is a stronger color or something. But at the end of the day, I mean, there have been a couple like programs that we have bought into that we see at the line reviews a year before, and we're like, oh, this is great, like you know, and then it hits the floor a year later and just tanks.
Yeah. No, it's there is kind of a craziness with that. And that's what always like drove me insane with all of that. Cause I'm like, to balance all the numbers with that kind of just gut thing, I was like, nah, I'm just gonna go with pretty colors.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just stick with the design aspect.
The merchant
Okay,
side
so to kind of
numbers.
yeah, to kind of wrap it all up, what has been your favorite thing about working in the fashion industry? If you could just one thing.
I just love how every day is different. I really do. I do technically like sit at a cubicle all day long every day. I do have a standing desk though.
Oh,
But so you know, you hear a lot of people like, "Oh, I just don't think I could like sit at a desk in an office all day. Like I need something where I'm doing a lot of different things." Well, I do a lot of different things every day.
and
And it's
talking
a
with a lot of different, it sounds like with the all like marketing to like finance to vendors and design.
teams, I mean, everything. And I would say that this job, I love it because it's such a problem solving job,
Hmm.
as well as like it's planning and it's problem solving, I would say. There's probably always going to be problems with your business. It's just, you know, it's when you're managing stuff like this in such large quantities, such big numbers, the simplest things can just wreck you that you have to find and fix. If somebody, we call it fat fingering, if somebody enters in an order for you that you planned for 400 and they typed in 4,000, I mean, it's just
Oh my God, fat thing.
obviously a mistake. Somebody like can't find an image of your product to in order to build a web page so that they can sell it online. So you go on this like rabbit hole hunt of like, okay, we can't use the image that the vendor has on their website because we have different standards for images. Um, the vendor can't send me a sample. I've asked them already. Do we have anything we can pull from our distribution center and shoot? Like, it's a lot of just like, here's something, here's a task. How do I do it? And it keeps it really interesting and
And
keeps
it's
the day.
fun. I do remember that, and it was a lot of fun to kind of, you just never knew what problem would come at you in those emails. You're like, okay, let's figure this out.
And I always kind of like joke and talk about we have like our to-do list of like 10 things that we want to get done that week, and we're always like happy if we can like mark one or two off of that list. All the other things that just come up unexpectedly, but that's what keeps it fresh and exciting.
Yeah,
So
it is fun that way.
fun.
Well, I want to thank you so much for logging on a Saturday morning to talk to my class and to kind of give them a little bit more insight into the industry and being a merchant. You know, it's so hard to really, like you said, understand it from a textbook. So it's so fun to be able just to hear what your day-to-day life is like at a big brand. So I want to thank you so much for taking time.
Different too, so it's probably fun for them to hear everybody else that you're interviewing. So.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.